Hey guys, welcome to Feature Fest. I am excited to be part of our Best in Blogging series, and I want to specifically introduce block fundamentals. Just a little bit about me to get us started. I am Lauren Gray. I'm the founder of Once Coupled. We have also started brands for creator theme and small plugins as we are transitioning into this fully block-based ecosystem that WordPress is creating. I have spent the past 2 years becoming way too familiar with block-based systems, designs, how you can use them to work with your VAs or anyone that's part of your blogging community. And that all kind of started from my background with Once Coupled, where I was building completely custom themes. We were doing custom plugins, custom functionality, using advanced custom fields and a lot of other supporting plugins to work within WordPress classic themes. And I was doing that completely based off of mocks that I got from a designer that I partnered with and loved it. Super beautiful results. But the biggest thing that I have learned over the 10 years of doing that is that more and more clients would prefer to be able to move fast and break things. I know that's a popular kind of phrase, and I definitely think that it's something that as blogging has become more of a business, that we need more of those capabilities. This session is going to go over a lot of block kind of basics, like the core information, and I'm going to introduce you to some concepts that go beyond just like the post editor that you're probably used to working with blocks in. So if you are a blogger or a VA, then you're in the right place. If you are working within those posts particularly, especially if you're doing kind of like the same thing over and over again, you've probably used blocks, but you have not actually optimized them. So you're using them, but you're not like using patterns to the best of their capabilities. We'll go into some of that type of stuff. But if you want to be able to work within your site and create faster workflows for creating like really cohesive posts, then blocks and patterns and understanding how those work is going to be for you. Again, this is because I'm completely done with custom themes. We build everything on these block themes now where I build out patterns instead of building out custom solutions for one-off clients. Before we get started, I'm stealing this from Matt. If you watched Matt's session, he had his like freebies at the very beginning and I loved it. So props to Matt Mullen for that. But I have two things that you can get at the end of the session if you want them. One is going to be, there's going to be some challenges throughout this where we're going to build patterns. If you want to download the patterns that are created, I'm just going to create them in the most basic block theme, which is 2025 from WordPress. Then you can download and import those. And then I'm going to have a kind of like cheat sheet on how I name my blocks. And may or may not be for you, but you could at least see how I do them. And when I say name my blocks, I actually mean how I like store my patterns in my database so that I kind of can find them later, because I like to build a lot of patterns. And I'm talking like 100 patterns. We're going to need to start like organizing those at some point so we can find and reuse them. Okay, so why do we want to learn blocks? It's so we can stop rebuilding things over and over again. It's so that we can create content that is like geared towards our brand and really visually cohesive. It's so that we can go into our posts and just update things to whatever the latest and greatest is. And then so we can build out a team that can work the same way we do. They know how to get done what we need. And so if I want them to go in and add a why this recipe works block to the beginning of every post, that's easy for them to do. They don't have to figure out, I don't have to teach them HTML and be like, copy paste this in. And then between these characters, you're going to update the text. None of that nonsense. Drag and drop, core WordPress, get in there, do your thing. So the old way was, and this, I feel like this little imagery here is really helpful because the old way was this classic editor and it was just like text and you could see headings, but that was it. Like you just wrote a post. And to insert anything kind of like advanced gallery or anything like that was like kind of complicated. But now we have this block editor where there's this whole sidebar of every kind of layout we can imagine. So it's built up of individual blocks that then can be combined to make patterns. So we'll go into that in a little bit. But basically, I love this visual because it's just so distinct. You can see the classic editor and the block editor and how different they are. Block editor, Gutenberg, same thing. WordPress uses the block editor in more and more places. So the block editor is being utilized by full site editing, which means in your block theme, you can change every aspect of it just like you would inside of a post. So if you switched from the classic editor to the block editor and you were like, why did I wait so long to change? This is so much easier to use. Then you're going to love full site editing because it takes that and applies it to your entire site. So if you want to update a widget in your sidebar, there are no widgets anymore. You don't have to go install a plugin, go to the widget screen, drag and drop it in, fill it out, be like, I can't change the style of this, but it is what it is. Now everything's done with blocks, and you'll do that in your full site editor. Instead, I want to talk about like the blocks that you're using probably in your posts and how we can really master those in order to improve our workflows, in order to empower our team members, and to add to like our brand authority by having this really cohesively branded site. I picked out 6 blocks that if you learn these 6, you can do pretty much everything you need. So up here at the top, we have the block inserter. That's not a block. I just wanted to call out there's a little plus icon that is going to be the easiest way for you to insert these blocks is using that block inserter. Blocks that I think are going to be the best use of your time to completely master is going to be your paragraph heading image. You probably use those all the time. You're familiar with them. But add to those the button block, a group, and there's variations of the groups. That one is a little advanced, and then the query loop. Again, the query loop is kind of advanced. It's a little bit like a group. It's going to nest other blocks inside of it. But those 6, if you know those, you can do pretty much everything you need to do on your site. You're ready for full site editing, install a block theme, you're good to go. If you can use those 6, you're gravy. And then when it comes to prioritizing like block styles that you want to learn, especially for those 6 blocks, the ones that are going to show up pretty much everywhere and that I have used the most when building out custom patterns is going to be any of the color settings. So that's your texture, background, typography. There's a bunch of options. You have to click the 3 little dots to show most of them. And so when you click on those 3 dots, and it'll give you the ones that you can enable in order to change. But the most common is going to be size, which is there by default. And then you'll probably want to change like the font family and maybe the letter case. I say letter case because I see a lot of my clients will actually go in and type things in all caps or in lowercase. That's not great for accessibility and copy and paste and things like that. So I'd add letter case there, especially if you want to stylize your text like that. Dimensions, padding, and block spacing, it is what will polish up your designs. So I'd say padding and block spacing, very important. Borders, kind of a nice to have, color, width of that. The bonus here is going to be the unlinked sides option. If you look at this image next to padding, there's like that little link. And if you look underneath, there's margin and it has another little link icon, but it's crossed through. That's because the margin has the sides unlinked. That's going to give you like a little bit more control. And I think that's pretty helpful for custom blocks, but you don't have to learn that one. Stick with the above ones. I want to show you what you can do in order to build out a custom block. So we're going to build this one together where I think I pulled like 5 blocks from Serious Eats. We're going to rebuild them because I see a lot of people who look at that site. What I love about Serious Eats is it's so content focused. It doesn't have a lot of fancy designs or custom patterns or anything like that. So we're going to see what we can rebuild from their layouts and what we can do with just WordPress core 2025, no plugins installed. No custom CSS, just the block editor. What we're going to do for this particular one is we're going to look at how simple this is. Essentially, it's just a heading and a list. And all we're going to do is we're going to select those items and group them together and then apply some styles that make it look like this. The only thing that I can identify from this that we can't do with WordPress core is we can't make the little dots in our list that orange type of color. There is a plugin that lets us do that, but I'm not going to install that. We will just do what we can with what we've got. What I really like is that you only really need about 4 blocks to make your post look nice and styled, to make it look kind of like cohesively branded for you. And you don't need 100 patterns to make your posts look really nice. You don't even need a block theme necessarily. You could do this with your theme right now. Create some of these designs, save them as patterns, use them all throughout your posts, hand them off to a VA, go update all of my posts with these blocks. Okay, let's pop in here and create this first block. First of all, I'm using TasteWP. I think you should also use TasteWP because it's super cool to just like create a site and play with it. Inside of TasteWP, I do have a site set up already, but just to show you what it would look like, I went to create a new site. I left everything default here in terms of versions, and then I disabled all of these settings. Disabled all of these. I left the WordPress theme the same, and then I went to create temporary site. So I've already set that up. You can see that I have one here. What I'm going to do is come into Appearance and make sure that I have 2025 installed. Just go to Add Theme. And then it's either under Popular or Latest or both. Search for 2025. This is the latest like WordPress core theme. I want to create that block that we came up with earlier that we were looking at. It was the Why This Works block from Serious Eats. And in the new page, it says create a pattern. I'm going to close out of that and I'm going to start from scratch and just type in why it works. This is a list, second item. I'm going to get Latin text. It's been ingrained in me. I just like having extra text to fill in. Click generate, copy a paragraph-ish. And I just want some of my list items to be like longer so I can see it with demo content. From here, mostly I always work inside of this document overview, list view. I feel like this is the easiest way to see what I'm doing. Select all of these, convert them to a list. I know I'm going pretty quickly here. If you are playing with this and you're not like fast clicking like me, that's normal. This paragraph, I'm going to change it to a heading. I usually keep mostly everything at an H2. I assume if I'm inserting it, it's a new section, it's an H2. You can change it later, but that's where I work from. And then selecting these two, I'm going to set them as a group. So this is like the structure that I would consider necessary in order to make our block look like the example one. From here, we need to go into the block styles panel and change some of the settings for the content. So we have the structure, we want to update the design. I want to make sure I have my group selected. And then inside of my styles panel, I'm not going to use any of their default styles. I want to show you what we can create. So in here, I want a border 1 pixel. We'll keep it black. It has a soft radius. I always work in multiples of 4. My flavor of OCD, as I like to call it. So we're going to give it just a small border radius and then a little bit of padding. I usually just start with regular for everything and then I adjust from there. And we'll keep it regular, maybe small all the way around. We need the box shadow. So adding in shadow. I want it to be this kind of like solid looking one. Our example had it as yellow. I can't do that with just settings here, but at least it's very close to the visual that we're going for. The last thing we need to do is on this heading, we're going to change it to a different color and we're going to make it all uppercase. Typography, lettercase, uppercase. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit of letter spacing, maybe like that. That's it. We have something I feel like that's like highly stylized with almost no work. All right, back to it. A group of blocks that we save to the database is going to be a pattern. And that is just like a reusable set of blocks that already have all of our settings enabled for them. They look the way we want and we save them in that exact way as a pattern. So blocks are like individual heading, paragraph, group items. A pattern is a collection of those blocks that have been arranged into a layout for us. And then you can have synced patterns. These used to be called reusable blocks. Instead, I'll just say synced patterns are super helpful for content that you want to stay the same all throughout your site. Synced patterns are going to be great for like affiliate links, free downloads, call to actions, things like that that aren't really going to change, and you want to have them in multiple places and just not have to update 16 pages when you're ready to change this call to action and update it to something new. Remember that block inserter? I want to point out here that your pattern inserter is the exact same thing. It's the same button. It's a blue button, at least if you have the default WordPress theme. That's a plus icon, top left currently, of the block editor. And when you open it, it opens like a sidebar. And that sidebar will have blocks by default, but you'll click over into a new tab that can show you your patterns. So for our next exercise, let's look at how we save a pattern. Essentially, you're just going to take the blocks that you want to save. They probably are grouped together, but you can select multiple blocks in a row. Click on the 3 dots at the top right, go to those 3 dots, which are options, and then create pattern. It's going to ask you to fill out a name, to give it a category, and then to decide whether you want it to be synced or not. Unsynced patterns are one-off patterns that you're going to update them individually. So whenever you insert it, you change out the content to it, and it changes just that location where it's been inserted. A synced pattern is something that is going to globally change whenever you make edits to it. So if you change the background color from purple to blue, that's going to happen every single post where that synced pattern is. If it's in a category, if it's on your homepage, it's going to change the settings everywhere for that particular pattern. So super powerful if you want that to happen. We're definitely going to talk about how to make sure you don't change it everywhere if you do not want that to happen, because that is, I think, one of the most confusing and frustrating things for people who are switching to block themes is we like to use a lot of these synced patterns to make your life easy. They can be confusing. But in general, patterns are like the best thing since sliced bread. Patterns are the easiest way to brand your content, the easiest way to get VAs to jump into whatever you're working on, just like the easiest way to scale, I feel like. Patterns, the answer. All right, so let's talk about those synced patterns. There are 3 ways to identify a synced pattern. This might be a little dry, but I promise it's important. If you have a synced pattern and you change it in one location, you're only seeing it change in that one location, and so it seems like it's fine until you visit somewhere else on your site and it looks completely wrong. So, because these synced patterns are used pretty regularly, we want to make sure that we're being really careful with these changes. The ways that you're going to identify synced patterns, 3 different ways. If it has a little diamond that's purple, like 2 linked diamonds that is purple, you'll only see it when it's purple. That is going to indicate that it is a synced pattern. If you're hovering over something and the border of it is purple, that is a synced pattern. If you have selected a block and it doesn't let you edit it, instead it has a button that says Edit Original, that is a synced pattern. So those synced patterns, I think WordPress core is trying to make it a little harder to mess those up because it is one of the most confusing areas. But I would just keep an eye out for that purple color, and if you see it, be careful. If you do see purple and you want to make changes, but you don't want it to happen everywhere, you're going to go back to those 3 dots, the options, and go down to detach. And that will just make it into like regular set of blocks. And then you can edit it as normal. You'll no longer see the purple icon, the purple border, the edit original. It will be a one-off instance again, which is exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so as we get to the end of this, I have made some challenges for you to go in and play around with what you can do with blocks and patterns and creating these. I have 4 images here. You'll create each of them with blocks. Keep in mind that because sites have different settings, when you're working on it, it's probably going to look different from what other people's settings would potentially look like. They might have different fonts, different preset sizes, different colors, things like that. So this definitely will vary from site to site. If you are on a classic theme, you might not have all of the settings that someone that's on a block theme has, either because your theme hasn't enabled them or they've purposefully disabled them to prevent any mistakes from happening as WordPress is making this upgrade. So it will look different. I'm going to make all of them in WordPress core 2025 block theme, and you'll be able to see how I create them. And if you want to import them, then you can import those either into your site to use or just to kind of check your own answers. So if you want to make these particular blocks and save them as patterns, I would recommend that for the purpose of just like checking your work, WordPress 2025 theme, no plugins, just so you can see kind of what it would look like. Then you can import ours, double check your answers. You can make them on your own site in order to actually save them as patterns that match your particular branding. Thank you guys for being here and for watching this. I hope that you enjoyed it. My top brands right now, the ones that I'm having the most fun working on, are going to be Creator Theme and Small Plugins. Those are completely block-based WordPress core, like modern funness, in my opinion. But if you need anything custom, service-based expertise, that's my bread and butter at Once Coupled. That is the original got into WordPress kind of brand. And so would love to see you over there. If you have questions, we have a small group that joins us in our Facebook group called Creator Collab. And we do live every single Wednesday. If you want to come join us at that, we would love to have you. I usually pick someone's site and we just live work on it. Come hang out with us. Lots of fun. We'd love to see you there. This is Bravo. He needs a home. He's very cute. And he's now messed up our slides. Don't know exactly where I left off, but we're going to have to kick Bravo off of here so we can keep chatting. Where were we at? Okay. One more time.